Hello, and welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group podcast. That's
Welcome
Milo.
Milo to the podcast.
Hi,
Yeah,
Milo.
I'm Ginny,
I'm Allie.
I'm Melanie, and
and we're here to help. Yeah, and
And
as
Ginny
my
did
voice
the
suggests,
intro!
you did
we
it
did the
Yay!
intro.
with
So
Yeah,
moral
proud.
so
support
proud of
behind
you.
you. Oh,
I was
Milo's
about to say,
cheering
well,
too.
yeah, it wasn't uninterrupted.
No.
We had the dog. So,
It's fine. We love Milo
anyways,
in this
it's
in this
it's
support
still
group.
it still counts. Redeemed myself from bad intro last week. Hard
Last
to
week
say I
was an
do have
adventure,
personality.
man.
That was fun.
Oh, it was. It was. Adventures
Ginny forgot
always.
how to. Ginny
I
forgot how
did
to function.
forget how to do the podcast. It's fine.
It's
You
fine.
know. I mean, we discovered some technical issue thing that was just like the one click today, and it's fine. You know.
So mad.
uh, yeah, professional.
The most
Anyways,
profesh.
yeah, it's only been a week since we last met, so not too much. I don't think has happened in most of
Yeah,
our lives.
we've had to catch up.
We caught up on our reading, so we had to do a lot of reading really fast these past few weeks.
Listen,
Which
I have
I mean,
a
Y'all went to
greater
bed way too late
appreciation.
last night.
yeah, I was about to say honestly, it's not that bad if we just like read a chapter a night. But like, who does that?
Who does
Not
that?
us.
We don't do that anymore.
No, not us.
No, we got to read them all right in one sitting, right the night before.
The morning of.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, I've been trying really hard to stay on top of our reading and do like the chapter 19 thing, and then this week I worked really late for I worked late for like a few days, and then so
Oh,
that
she
means
did
I get
actually work
home
late.
late. But then
It's also
after
harder
that,
to do it when you only have a week. When we've been doing it every other week, you have more time to
yeah,
spread it out.
I'm very grateful for
well,
the fact that this is a bi-weekly podcast
yeah,
now.
I'm so grateful for that. But the thing is, I definitely don't spread it out over 2 weeks. I still put it all in the last week.
Yeah, but then I feel same, but I still feel less pressure.
You see,
I
the thing
agree.
is, I blame
I
myself
agree.
more in that instance, where I'm like, yeah, you should have been on top of your shit and you weren't. So, you are reaping
Right.
what you have sown at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The consequences of your actions.
I
Who knows
hate
about
that.
that? Not Will Herondale.
Not Will Herondale. You're right.
I took a look at the stream title to see, and I'm very happy that you went with my suggestion.
Yes, absolutely.
Think of it as secret engagement.
Oh,
I'll
man.
get there.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Well,
Why that title is important.
yeah. Do we want to jump into the books discussion?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Let's go for it then. Spoiler warning. So if you have not read this book or any of the Infernal Devices, or you just want to read it again without spoilers, we are on chapter 17. Like we read 17 and then all the way through the end. So chapter 17 to 21, and then like any of the little extras at the end is stuff that we're going to be talking about here. Of course, we're going to be this is the book wrap up, so we're going to be talking about everything that happened in this book too, and even in
All of
Clockwork
Clockwork
Angel. So
Prince.
exactly, all of Clockwork Prince, even things that maybe if they're coming up from Clockwork Angel. So that's your spoiler warning right now. And with that, Melanie is going to give us our summary for the
I am,
rest of this book.
and keep an eye on Allie and Ginny because I'm sure they'll be acting it out alongside.
I will, so that I don't interrupt the actual summary.
I occasionally
Then
interrupt the
we'll
actual
never get
summary.
anywhere.
I get excited.
All right, so as we said, this is chapter 17 through 21. The air is cold, the night is dark as Will walks down King's Road. Magnus sent him an address with no other information. It's time to summon the demon that cursed Will and killed his sister. The demon, Marbus, rises and Will confronts it. Marbus remembers Will from 5 years ago. And according to Magnus, when being released from a Pyxis, a demon is usually at its weakest. Though how did it cast such a strong curse on Will? The truth is, there never was a curse. With this revelation, everything has changed for Will as he struggles to come to terms with it. The next morning, Charlotte sits at the desk in the drawing room. She's writing a letter formally resigning her position as head of the London Institute. Henry walks in and is confused as to why Charlotte didn't discuss this with him. He's just as much the head of the Institute as she is. Charlotte snaps, lashing out at Henry. They finally talk to each other and really about how they feel. They're married because they love each other. They always have. Meanwhile, Tessa is in her room when there is a knock at the door. It's Jem. He's come to speak to her. He explains to her that since they haven't found Mortmain, the chances of Charlotte keeping the Institute are very low. The family they formed would be broken up, and Tessa would no longer be able to stay with them since she's not a shadow hunter. However, Jem will not give her up that easily. Jem asks Tessa to marry him. As a symbol of his love, Jem gives Tessa his jade pendant rather than his family ring. Tessa says yes. The group is summoned to a meeting where Charlotte discusses her plan. She will tell the Clave about Benedict. Or, I guess, the council. I wrote the Clave, but I think it's the council. Charlotte is
Benedict
convinced
Lightwood.
Charlotte is
Thanks,
convinced that she is...
Benedict Lightwood.
I should have written that and I didn't. Charlotte is convinced that she's been a bad leader and that the council will think the same. How could they not? She failed twice to notice a spy under her roof. The plan to capture Nate went terribly wrong. Will and Tessa snuck out unnoticed to attend Benedict's party. Or, I'm sorry, Benedict's party. Sophie, though, is adamant that Charlotte can't do that. She reveals she's been seeing Gideon on her days off and tells him what information he's shared. Benedict Lightwood has demon pox. It's real. After some discussion, Jem suddenly bolts out of the room. When he returns,
Demon pox song.
So much for interruptions.
I love the Demon pox song.
When he returns, he has the report on Barbara Lightwood, Benedict's wife, death. The report revealed that Barbara had all the symptoms of demon pox. Benedict has been hiding this and the demon pox the entire time. A plan is formed. Charlotte will write to Benedict, telling him she wants to discuss his taking over as head of the Institute, and when they meet, she will blackmail him with the information about Barbara and his own demon pox. If they succeed, Benedict will put his whole support behind Charlotte, and his followers will be left out to dry. Meeting with Benedict, the plan works. However, Benedict knows nothing of Mortmain's whereabouts or what he wants with Tessa. Gideon, who he himself promised to tell the council everything, takes off his Lightwood family ring. Gideon asks Gabriel to come with him, but Gabriel is hesitant. He says he can't do it. Back at the Institute, Will goes with Tessa to the drawing room. Once inside, he quickly pulls her into an embrace and proceeds to kiss her. Remembering Jem, Tessa pushes Will off her. In confusion of Tessa saying she thought Will wanted to apologize, Will finally tells her the truth. He loves her. He explains to Tessa why he's acted the way he did, telling her how he believed he was cursed. He admits to her how he's been feeling this entire time, and it was killing him to push her away. However, Tessa tells Will that it's too late, for she is engaged to Jem. The next day, the hearing to determine Charlotte and Henry's effectiveness in running the Institute is held. Charlotte, under the influence of the mortal sword, tells the council everything, and Benedict puts his support behind her. In the end, Charlotte gets to keep her position as head of the Institute. At dinner that night, Jem shares the news of his and Tessa's engagement with everyone. Charlotte has her own news to share. She's pregnant with a baby boy. But the celebration is short-lived, as Cyril informs them that there is someone at the door asking to see everyone. It's Cecily. She has come to be trained as a Shadowhunter.
What? It's Cecily.
Cecily!
That did not go as smoothly as I wanted it to, but it's fine.
It was pretty smooth. The amount of cliffhangers that end in "It's Cecily," like
the amount of "It's Cecily" and Charlotte's pregnant throughout all of the Shadowhunters books is a interesting cliffhanger that we've done more than once.
Wait, Charlotte? What?
This is not
Charlotte's being pregnant.
We'll get there. Spoilers,
confused.
but also kind of. It's fine.
Oh, no. Okay. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about, clearly.
Charlotte's having a baby.
Yeah.
Yay, Charlotte.
Good for Charlotte.
I literally wrote in my notes when she said that. I was like, I forgot she was already pregnant.
So, it's interesting because we get that scene about Charlotte and Henry's relationship, how it's like, well, I've always loved you. Well, I've always loved you. And it's just like, they're finally having this realization where they're talking to each other. Finally. And realizing that, they are each other's first priority and not, like, his inventions and her running the Institute.
Has nothing to do with family debts, has nothing to do with obligation.
Exactly. Which is hilarious that Charlotte is pregnant before this conversation.
Yeah.
It's just like...
yeah.
The awkward sex they must have been having. Like... Oh, Charlotte and Henry.
It worked out in the end.
It did work out for them. They figured it out, but I was like, that timeline, man. That timeline's rough.
Yeah. But I completely didn't even realize this until I looked at my notes just now. But my first note for chapter 17, which I find ironic now, is I love Mom Charlotte.
Well,
yeah, she is mom.
Charlotte is an actual mom.
It was just more like how we always joke that I'm the mom friend. and Charlotte is basically a mother to these kids.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I love her. But now she's actually going to be a mom to her own, I guess, biological child.
A bouncing baby boy.
Who will not be named Buford, according
Supposedly.
to Charlotte.
Can neither confirm nor deny the name of the child. And his personality. Yeah. And lots of things about him.
The other big thing that was, well, I guess one of the other two big things that happened in this chunk of chapters is Will was never cursed.
Will was never cursed.
Wow.
That's probably arguably a bigger deal than Charlotte and Henry.
Arguably. This is the Herondale Boy Support Group, after all.
This is the Herondale Boy Support Group.
There is a lot of Will content that we need to be supported about.
Yes,
I'm supportive of, because my heart breaks for him.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Wow.
Ginny and I were both reading the final chapter this morning before we were on the thing, and she was like making breakfast and I was on the couch and I go ugh over a line, and then she comes over, I don't tell her what line it is, and then she comes over and she's reading the same chapter and then she makes the same ugh, the exact same sound. I'm like, what line? It's the exact same bit.
And it was the same one. Yeah, it's crazy.
What was it? It was when Will and Tess are having...
It's at the end, so I don't know if we want to get to there yet. It's like right at the end.
Well, how about we get to that later?
Let's talk about the curse thing. Yeah, well, Melody brought up the Will's broken curse.
Yeah, like the curse was never real.
Even non-existent curse.
Ella died because she was stung by the demon's stinger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which only perpetuates my fear of wasps and bees, okay?
You are right about that.
We also had Bridgerton, where the dad died from a bee sting.
Oh my god, yeah!
So, like,
Bridgerton.
Right?
And then Anthony being traumatized by it, and like Kate... Oh, don't even get me started. Bridgerton's my guilty pleasure.
I love Bridgerton.
That makes sense. We all like Bridgerton.
We're also reading another period piece, another period fantasy.
Wait, so am I. It's not a fantasy, but it's fiction. But it's
well, The Infernal Devices is period fantasy, in a way.
Yeah, but I meant like outside of this. I'm reading like a Regency era.
Ooh.
Nice.
Anyway,
I read the Bridgerton book. Hot take: I liked the show better, actually. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is not a Bridgerton podcast.
And like watching Will sort of come to the realization that there was never a curse, and he pushed everyone away for literally nothing. He like literally crumbled.
Heartbreaking. He talked about how he wasted 5 years of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Which
obviously we know everybody loved him anyway, but
yeah, that's true. Like,
but he spent all that time trying to avoid loving them back too, and
right.
you know, being terrible to all these people he cared so deeply for.
And regarding Tessa specifically, pushing her away because he didn't want anything to happen to her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, like, in the grand scheme of things, once you're an adult and you look back, like 5 years, sometimes you look back at 5 years has gone by so fast. But when you're living 5 years, it feels long time.
Yeah, it feels like,
And we have Magnus's perspective on this too, where it's like, dude, you're 17.
Yeah.
Like,
you haven't wasted your life. Like, you have so much more life. Yeah.
I wanted to actually quickly bring up Magnus because, Magnus is staying with Wolsey Scott. Right?
Wolsey Scott is ride or die, man. He's a bro.
But that's not a problem. That's not the problem.
Scott.
I was like, am I remembering things wrong, or why do I feel like they're lovers?
I didn't get that vibe from them.
It could be just me, like, thinking something that didn't actually happen.
I mean, they could be. I'm down.
I don't know. They could be. But
I'm saying, I think it's probably just, like, me thinking that it happened in the later book, and I don't think it ever actually did.
Give me two characters, I'll be happy to ship them. But,
yeah, I don't know.
But, like,
yeah.
Wolsey just like, your girlfriend came back and cheated on you? You need to stay in my house? Okay, bro. You need to summon a demon in my house? Sure. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah, you can use my brother's old bedroom.
No one he died,
okay.
it's fine.
Speaking of people doing people favors, Magnus says that Will did him, like, a favor, you know, without ever knowing it, and mentions a love he can no longer put a name to. And in the back of my head, I just had this thought that it had something to do with Will's dad, because I know that Will's dad, Edmund, and Magnus knew each other. And again,
Yeah.
I'm probably reading something way too much into this, but that's where my mind went.
I mean, Herondales are hot, and Magnus has eyes.
I mean,
so...
it's very possible, that Magnus was hidden on all these Herondales and all these Shadowhunters, and it's fine.
I know we have been talking about this a lot because, I mean, it's the first big thing, but I pulled up this quote that Magnus described Will as being very broken, like a lovely vase that someone has smashed. Only luck and skill can put it back together the way it was before. And a few chapters ago, Henry described Jesse as broken. So I was thinking how, like, it could be really interesting to talk about how Jesse, Will, Jem, and even Tessa are all broken in their own ways.
Everybody's broken.
Everybody is broken.
We're all broken. I'm broken.
We are.
You're broken. MG is broken.
Welcome to the Broken Boy Support Group.
Yeah, this is why we have a support group for the broken. We're all broken. And you mentioned specifically how Jesse and Will, like, there was that same description you used them, which is interesting because I picked out a quote too, in when they're talking to, or what is it? Let me find the page number because I wrote it down. I think they're talking to Jesse. No,
they don't
talk to Jesse this bit. They talk about Jesse
there's
quite a bit.
It's when Tessa is like delirious and she's going in and out of these different like dreams or visions, or we don't know what's going on because she fainted and she keeps so there's this moment where she is like in Jesse's space basically, and seeing what's going on through her or whatever, and then there's this point where basically Jesse's like where she talks about how she has gambled and lost everything, and I was like, that is exactly what Will was like.
I
did
actually
lost
pull
everything.
that out
and I was
in my notes.
I was like, you are the same. Sometimes, not all the time, but
I think I wrote a note about Will and Jesse being very similar. If I didn't,
yeah.
I thought
I could get behind shipping Jesse and Will.
I'm not shipping them.
I don't think so. But I think they're too similar for their own good. I think they're just too similar.
I think
I don't ship it, but I'm like, y'all are the same. It's like the Gabriel and Will. I'm like, you're the same. Like, it's that energy. The Will and Gabriel are actually the same. Jesse and Will are not quite, but they just have times where when they're like, I'm like, y'all realize there's so much more in common than
they're the bickering siblings.
They are. They are. Absolutely.
There's what did Will say about Jesse in his note to his?
Oh, at the end of the book, he's writing to his family.
One of the bonus contents and one of the editions.
I don't know if I have that.
Did you have that? See it. Oh, okay. Well, I have it in the book that I have. But it's basically he writes a letter on his 17th birthday to his mom and dad. Basically, it's not what he sends, or he intends to rip it up like he does supposedly every year on his birthday, but he's basically he talks a little bit about like the Institute and how his life there is, and he mentions kind of everybody offhand, and so he says there's little good to be said about Jessamine, but she is harmless.
No.
That's the one line about
the extra content I have that I didn't actually read was An Offering of Moonlight, a new perspective on Gemma.
I did read that. I did read that.
Oh.
I have that too.
I only have that, and then the sneak peeks at City of Bones, Clockwork Princess, and Lady Midnight.
Okay.
Because Ginny also has the thingy in the book.
I have the what?
The inscription that Will writes, or the dedication that Will writes in Tessa's copy.
Mine is called Collector's First Edition, so
that might be why.
Yeah, I don't have that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I have the...
You got fancy shit.
Yeah, it's the letter Will wrote to his family on his 17th birthday, and then the inscription that Will wrote to Tessa in A Tale of Two Cities. Yeah. This is a thrifted book, too, actually, so that's exciting.
Ginny wanted all of her covers to match.
Yes, that's what I wanted. I want all the covers to match. So I already had, like, I had Clockwork Angel as, like, the... not the cover that we use for the graphics promo.
The OG cover.
It's the OG cover. Yeah, so I was like, I need to get the other two in OG covers.
I have the ones that have the matching spot.
I have a nook.
Yeah.
And I think I have a paperback copy of
I
Clockwork
think
Prince.
you have at least, yeah, at least you have at least one of the books as a physical book too.
I'm one of those people where, so what I would do is I would go to a bookstore and I would buy the first book, and then when I finished it, I would buy it on my nook, so that way I would have it immediately. And I'm also one of those people like once I pick a favorite book, I collect it in like several different formats.
Yeah.
So like I'll get it in paperback, I'll get it on the nook, so I can read it on the go, and like all these other things. So I'm just that kind of person. The same but different, if you will.
That was a tangent.
Yeah.
Twas, but
That's
it was
what
important.
we're here for.
Was.
Yeah.
Will and Jesse.
Tessa,
Did you have anything else to say on Jessie?
Not Jessie.
Your favorite?
Not yet, because we don't.
Okay.
We don't see.
We
a
don't
lot
get
of
a lot
Jessie.
of her. Yeah, we don't get a lot of her at the end here.
I have things to say about her later in the next book.
She's hit rock bottom, is where we're at. And we need to see her redemption.
We're just waiting to see what happens with her and what her punishment will be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have thoughts on the other, I guess, young girl of the Institute. I was going to say girl, but then there's also Charlotte. I was like, how do I differentiate the two? On Tessa.
Tessa.
I went back.
I thought we were going for Sophie, and I was like, I could talk about Sophie.
Me too. I was like, the other.
Well, it has to do with Sophie. It has to do with
Sophie.
I went back and forth on Tessa a lot these chapters because she was being judgmental and like she came from a good place, but she was being like really rude and being like, you don't know, he'll take advantage of you, blah blah blah. And Sophie's like, let me do what I want. Let me alone.
Live. Listen, I remember going into this reread like I'm going to try and hold grace for Tessa. It is becoming progressively more difficult. Just saying.
Yeah, I know that, Tessa later apologizes like profusely to Sophie.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a good like moment because Tessa, realized that she had no right to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you trust him, then that's, what matters.
Mm-hmm.
But Tessa is so judgmental, so easily judgmental.
Tessa, please.
Which is interesting because Tessa like has these moments of self-realization where she realizes that that's judgmental, but then she says it anyways.
Exactly.
Or she said it and then she's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that."
No self-control.
Not long after she says
like, same, but
yeah.
But yeah, so because Sophie
she's a little impulsive. Yeah.
I mean, Sophie, yes, but she's very careful.
No,
like,
I meant.
Oh, you meant Tessa.
Tessa.
I'm sorry.
Tessa's a little
but
impulsive.
Sophie has to be very careful about
she does
everything because everything's on the line. Her employment, she's still based on what we know from her past about how she got her scar. She is not one to trust men easily.
She's still traumatized. Sophie is living her life in the Institute on eggshells, and we see this sort. And she doesn't have to. Like we know obviously because we see Charlotte and everybody and how they care about Sophie. But Sophie herself, like when Sophie talks about herself, like the way that she feels that she needs to present herself, the way that she feels she needs to hold herself.
She's very easily replaceable.
Exactly. And like that's her biggest fear is having to like leave the Institute and having to leave all these people who she's learned to care about and who care about her and just like I have feelings about Sophie.
And she didn't easily trust Gideon either. It's not like she instantly was like, well, I trust you. She was wary of him. When they went to meet in, whatever, for that picnic last time.
She was ready to dump him.
I don't know that this is a good idea. But
yeah, and it's heartbreaking when he comes to the Institute, how she feels about that.
But she outs herself. She tells everyone that she's been seeing Gideon.
She does.
She does.
There could be really, really big consequences for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she fears.
She cares about this family. Yeah, this family, and these people that and what they're trying to do more than she cares about her feelings in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sophie is such an interesting character. I love her.
I love Sophie. She's great.
And I remember that we learned about Sophie before, like in this, but I forgot how much Sophie we get in these books.
We don't even get that much time with her, I feel like, in these past two books, but like the time we do get is
it's very meaningful.
It's a lot of meaningful. We learn a lot about her kind of thing.
Yeah. For someone who is is not she's not like one of the main love triangle 3 characters, but she is she's in this a lot, like for a servant, quote, that's her her role. Like she has a lot of character in these books and stuff, which is really cool.
You know who
And
she
I
is?
feel like I feel like she's like kind of a main, honestly.
I've seen this book
Oh.
talk filter going around of which like character in a book in a fantasy book are you.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie is the quirky best friend of like Tessa.
Kind of, I guess.
In the sense that like she's not a main like character, but she's very.
I would argue that her
important
role is
the story.
adjacent to that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like
not
she's
like
here
the
to provide a
quirky
foil.
Similar.
She's a mirror for Tessa. is
maybe
what it
not
is.
exactly quirky best friend, but like in that vein kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
She's Tessa's mirror. She's there to listen to Tessa say all these things and then to be like, "You sure about that, bro?" Like,
And I guess it was Tessa who smashed Jesse over the head. Boom.
but
No.
yeah.
It wasn't funny. It's okay.
Mhm.
I got it.
I see what you
understood.
mean.
It
Yeah.
took Jenny a minute.
It did take me a second. I was like, sure.
Yeah,
I don't know that it made
yeah.
sense totally the way I say it, but I
Yes,
think you get what I
and.
meant.
Yeah.
Yes, and
How do you do a podcast? Lots of
for
yes.
your
So-
for your improv.
I know I've been
Theater.
sort of taking control, but I want to go to why the title of this episode is why it is what it is. Because I am this person. As we've discussed, I am a big musical theater fan. I'm a musical theater
This is
nerd.
true. Can confirm.
Mhm.
I make musical theater references all the time. And for those of you who don't know, the title of this podcast is a reference from Phantom of the Opera. But so something I pulled out was that Henry, this isn't exactly why this is the title, I'll get there in a second. Henry called Charlotte Lottie, and my first thing was Little Lottie from Phantom,
Ah, yes,
okay.
that's true.
because I continue
You're
to make everything about Phantom.
I do love me some
Um,
Phantom songs.
There's a lot of little Phantom things. We had Masquerade recently, and
Exactly.
now we have
So that's what I'm saying. I make
yeah.
everything about Phantom.
Yeah.
But the reason why this title is what it is because there is an engagement that happens.
Engagement.
Yeah. The engagement.
I have
just-
emotions about the
Is
engagement.
it
I have
time to dig
intense
into
feelings about the
the
emotion.
So do
triangle?
I. I'm not kidding when I wrote down Jen's entire speech.
Oh.
I just, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I just, the love triangle.
Tess is still thinking about Will,
Dreaming.
even when Jem is about to propose to her.
mm-hmm. And her reaction is like, I guess. Like, could you be any less enthusiastic?
She like questions him at first. She's like,
Uh-huh.
"Wait, what? Are you serious?"
The first thing they
Yeah.
talk about in that conversation is she asks him about his illness, like if he's ill. And like that's her
And he's
concern.
like, "No, Tessa. Like that's fine to be concerned about, but that's not what this is."
Right. It's just it's hard wrench. Jem is so good and so pure and deserves, someone who's going to give him 110% back. And like consistently we don't see Tessa giving him that.
No. And I won't go over his entire
Nope.
speech, but I wrote it down. It's very much so what we were talking about earlier, in regards to how Will and Jem are different,
Mm-hmm.
and that Jem is good with his words kind of thing. Like, this is a swoon-worthy, like, proposal, I feel like, and what he says.
I don't know, man. Will later on in the drawing room got me like,
I-
oh.
Hold on. It's swoon-worthy, but I didn't swoon, is what I was going to say.
Okay, interesting.
Where in the book is that again? Like, do you have like
It's
a
the
page?
end of
I just want to
chapter
look at it real quick.
It's toward the end of chapter 18. I
18?
can read the whole thing if you
Okay.
want. I pulled it out.
It's like I was just like looking for the back. That's the other thing for me is like you say that and I'm like in my brain it wasn't that memorable. So
I didn't
I'm
think it
like,
was that memorable either.
I just
so-
thought it was very... my point is I thought what he said was very sweet. He's like...
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
It was more just like, the sweet talker in him kind of thing. Not in a
Mhm.
bad way. Is really what I was getting
Mhm.
at.
Jem is earnest. So everything that Jem says is very like direct and concrete. And we get that here too. I don't have the book in front of me because I am a bad book podcaster. So I left it on the thing. So I'm going to rely on Ginny to find the speech. Oh, Melanie,
I mean, I'm, like,
why don't you read part
Melanie
of the
wrote it
speech
down.
to us?
I'm not
Okay.
gonna read it, but
He says, I can offer you my life, but it is a short life. I can offer you my heart, though I have no idea how many more beats it shall sustain. But I love you enough to hope that you will not care that I am being selfish in trying to make the rest of my life, whatever its length, happy by spending it with you. I want to be married to you, Tessa. I want it more than I have ever loved anything else in my life. It's very sweet.
It is sweet.
Yeah.
It's
That was
sweet.
my
is,
main
yeah.
point.
But like,
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't as long as that part, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's everything is just complicated by like situation.
mhm.
And
Like
I
the
think his
situation of
gesture
Jem
of
dying.
yeah, I think his gesture of giving the jade pendant is more meaningful, and how that's more meaningful to him than the ring is also, But
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Jem, on paper, is a perfect guy, kind of thing, but it's just not working.
and that's the conversation we
Yeah.
had last week too, where it's like Jem is the right
did.
choice.
Right. But it's not. It doesn't. Being the objectively on paper the right choice doesn't negate the passion or the just
Exactly.
the sparks that you have sometimes with somebody else.
Somebody else.
So
Which
sometimes they're best friends.
I have notes about that too, but we
And
can get
that's
there.
unfortunate.
And it's like, and it becomes so apparent after Will does his
Mm-hmm.
big confession and Tessa, turns him down. Like every single interaction that she has with Jem after that, it's like it's hurting her. Like she's like it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, like this is how you know that you fucked up.
This is how you know, and like sometimes you gotta have hard conversations with people. You can't just stay in one place and be unhappy for the rest of your life. You gotta be able to do
It's
these
this
things.
question of like, it's this question of like, is the truth more painful than the heartbreak thing?
I didn't write this particular part down, but Tessa has to will herself to melt into Jem's kiss, and she has to repeat to herself like over and over that she loves Jem. Like you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Like
can confirm that's not how that works. If you're doing that, there's probably something wrong. Just no.
Yeah.
Tessa
and Will.
Yeah. And then
Will.
Will. His whole.
I've been talking a lot. If somebody else wants to go ahead and talk about Will.
I'm sure Allie would love to talk about Will, but it's just his whole
love Will.
So do I.
His whole big confession when his elation when he realizes, like his like he's really sad when he realizes that it's been 5 years that he's been putting people away, but like the second after that is the second thought is like I can tell Tessa that I love her and
exactly.
By the way, Tessa's speaking, which she doesn't mean to, but he thinks that she's gonna say the same thing.
Oh, yeah, they have that conversation where Will's like, I really need to talk to you right now, and Tessa's like, yeah, I need to talk to you too, but like maybe we should wait. And then she's like, I know what you're going to talk about, and he's like, oh, you do? Excellent, great. And then he's like, yeah, elated, and he's like,
I think
sitting on this like happy energy,
the same way or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what he's expecting. They walk into the drawing room, and he's like, smooch.
And she's like, whoa.
She's like,
no.
So I'm kind of engaged to your hair tie.
So about that. Jem?
He's like,
my
what?
Jem?
Yeah.
My Jem.
Yeah. Stabbed right in the heart there.
Oof. And then he has this...
Shot through the heart and you're too late.
Herondales give love a bad name.
A bad name.
I just...
Do they though? That's a discussion for another day. How about that?
I'm just heartbroken thinking... Yeah, Will's elation turned to immediate heartbreak is painful. And like you have Jem's speech, which is very sweet, but then you have Will's waxing poetic because he's the reader, he's the poet. The way he speaks about her, the way he speaks about his love for her, and it's just
he's like, I love you, I have always loved you. I thought I was cursed, but there never was a curse.
Exactly. It's like, surely if I explain, or if we explain to Jem, and then when Tessa's adamant and is like, no, we're engaged, I'm gonna do this. And then he has like this moment of where he's crestfallen, and he says something along the lines of, if you ever cared about me at all, you won't tell Jem what happened here. It's just
Yeah.
And then
the switch to they agree to not tell Jem just be to preserve his feelings and to what little time he has left type of thing and like.
And
okay, so everyone is handling Jem with kid gloves, which is the very thing that he resents. And he says it time and time again, don't treat me like I'm a patient, don't treat me like I'm inferior, don't treat me like I'm weak. And yet here they are, the two people who he supposedly loves the most are doing that exact shit.
Because they don't want to break his heart and and he's just like, I want to spend what little time I have left with you. But like
they also have the moment where I don't remember if it's both of them or if it's just Tessa. I think it might be both of them, where they're both like, oh, surely if we go to Jem and explain what happened, he'll let Tessa go. He'll let me be with Will, kind of thing. But
that's what Will's saying to Tessa.
They know that he
Tessa
would forgive them.
thought.
Yeah, like they know that Jem would forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also like, we can't do that to him.
But then they're like, but like he would forgive them, but it would break his heart. Mm-hmm. And like yes, but like.
But you're not.
Yeah, again, like it's the question of like, is it worse to break his heart but have him know the truth and not be faking this whole thing and like not be giving your all to this, or is it
maybe you do love him in a way, Tessa, but you don't love him like you love Will.
Right.
It's unfair in so many ways to Jem. Because he deserves to have that same passion that Will and Tessa have all the times. He deserves to have somebody who will love him for him, who will love him as, the man he wants to be. And like,
which is,
unfortunately, it's not Tessa. Not in this moment.
Which is why I have issues with the way the love triangle works out.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait to talk about that one.
Me too.
Sophie has told Tessa like twice, like, don't break
his heart.
And she asks Tessa like toward the end,
do you love him?
Broken his heart yet?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Is what I think she says, have you broken his heart yet?
She asks. Yeah, she does ask.
And Tessa's like, no, I haven't.
No.
Not yet.
But like, it's the way that Sophie says yet. Or maybe she doesn't say yet. But either way, it feels like that's the vibe.
I don't think she says yet, but.
I don't think she says yet, but
I feel like that's what she
just tell me you have to. But like she like Sophie isn't blind either. Sophie is more attuned to the things going on in the house than most people. Like she sees. I feel like she knows what's going on.
I feel like Sophie would be the only one to not treat Jem with kid gloves.
There is because she has a line where she talks about like her because Tessa's like, well, then you would have to be a shadow hunter, right? And Sophie's like, that's actually what I want to be. Like, she's like, I would love that. So there is a part of me that worries that, Sophie, there is an attachment beyond Jem just as Jem. But I think that Sophie does have the unique perspective of, because she has her history and the scars that she knows to look past the surface of people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which is, so the thing is, I
which
love
is why
her
she's like leading Gideon's redemption arc here.
Ship. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think that Sophie has there's a similarity with her and Jem that she can look past like what's just there, and there's a
she can look past the illness in the same way that he can look past her scars.
There. Yes, right. Yes. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I got you.
Yeah, but so I'm not sure if they're like the perfect choice. I think that there is that.
No, I'm not saying that them as a couple. I just mean like as a person, Sophie treats Jem like anybody else.
She's a better choice for Jem than Tessa at this moment. I agree.
Right.
I concur.
Speaking of, well, you brought up Gideon. Do we want to talk about the Lightwoods?
The Lightwoods.
I guess if we have to.
Benedict and his son's Canadian bacon and English and Spanish muffin.
Which son is which?
Well, I said Spanish muffin instead of English muffin.
Oh, I didn't hear Spanish muffin. Okay.
But I did just say Canadian bacon for Gabriel because I gave him no distinguishable qualities.
Oh my gosh!
I have an idea, but and I don't. It's not really a thing. But I have an idea, but it's spoilers, so I won't.
Okay. Well, I will say that Gabriel's piercing green eyes have been mentioned like more than once now too. We talk about Will's eyes a lot. We also talked about Gabriel's eyes a few times.
Listen, everybody has pretty eyes.
Except for the fact that they were black ones and now they're like silver, I think.
Yeah.
There is no brown-eyed representation in this book. None.
Nope.
You could not have You could not have brown eyes and be a YA hero in the 20 whatevers. It was not a thing that you could be.
It's true.
It had to be blue or gray.
Green is also
green is now in. It used to be blue, but now green eyes are the thing.
Ah,
the color
green eyes are trendy.
oh, okay.
Benedict has demon pox. It was real.
Yes, he does.
Will was
He
right,
got
and he feels
the
so
demon
vindicated. Will feels so vindicated, and it's very funny.
I love his song.
Yeah.
His song brings me
He's
much
going
joy.
on the whole. He's just going nuts in this room when they're trying
And
to have this conversation.
Charlotte goes to Jem and is like, "Can you deal with that?"
And Jem's just like,
"Are you going to be quiet?"
And then Will says one thing after, and everyone's just like,
yeah.
Will always has to have the last word.
He does.
Will is having the best day of his life. He's not cursed. Demon pox is real.
I think I read
Benedict
that down,
Lightwood is proven to be a disgusting person.
He still has a chance with Tessa at this point.
At this point, yes.
Literally read it.
I was gonna say, does he? But yeah, at this point.
Number 1, no curse. Number 2, demon pox is real.
Number 3, still at this point in time has a chance with Tessa.
Exactly.
Or at least
I tied that in with the first thing. I tied that in with number 1.
He does.
No curse. Yeah.
But
best day of Will Herondale's life.
I love that Gideon immediately is like, "No, Dad, you're terrible. I will not be brainwashed you by anymore. I will not be gaslit by you." But poor Gabriel.
Yeah.
Grow
a backbone, Gabriel. Come on, Gabe.
He's not. What did I say about Gabriel?
Hi, Father.
I said Gabriel doesn't have the strength to break away from his father, and I said that's okay. You'll get there.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there. And we see, like, somebody says that too. Like, Gideon is disappointed that Gabriel didn't come, and Charlotte's like, give him time.
I think Tessa says something about relating to Gabriel and that she knows what it's like to lose or learn information about someone who you loved and cared about and is your family, and it's like that they're a trouble person kind of thing. So he says something about like relating to Gabriel.
That's fair. Yeah, we definitely see the seeds being planted of that. Gabriel is not the same as his father either. He's not ready to make that.
Yeah,
jump
not.
Yet.
He doesn't have as strong
and Gideon is older. He is now thinking for himself, which is like that's what we talked about. Like after his trip to Spain or whatever, he has his own thoughts.
He's left
now
the bubble.
His own.
That's what I was gonna. I think that's a big part of it is that Gideon has seen, and he says that he's seen the way other Shadowhunters and demons or Downworlders interact with each other, and it's not at all
this ain't
like
it.
what Benedict
ain't it. Yeah.
So I think because Gabriel has been so, I don't know if it's unintentionally or intentionally sheltered by his father.
Yeah.
Intentionally, absolutely.
Yeah. By his father, whatever, that like he has more difficulty breaking away.
It's the same thing like when you see people who live in one small town for the rest of their lives and then they like leave for the first time and it's like, oh, this is the world outside of my little bubble. And Gabriel just doesn't have that experience yet.
He'll get there.
Yeah.
He will.
Let's see. What else should we talk about?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is that like when they're having this moment because Gideon is like, Gabriel, you want to come with me, and Gabriel responds with like family before law, and we find that that's a really the Lightwoods are really proud of their family name, their family, even they stand by their family even when their family does stuff that they shouldn't sometimes.
Even when your father kills your mother by giving her a demon STD.
And your mother takes her own life because that's her only way out.
Because demon STD.
Demon pox.
And then Gabriel was also fed the lie of that it had to do with Charlotte's father or her uncle, something about Charlotte's family.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, so, but the plan works because Benedict is all about that pride.
I was not fucking demons. Yes, Charlotte's great. We love Charlotte. Charlotte's at the Institute
yeah,
forever.
Charlotte's so great.
Yay. And when everyone's like, Benedict,
we should test
what
her
happened?
and she passed. So,
and when everyone's like, Benedict, why? He's just like, well, we know more information than we did before, and I have to admit that's because of Charlotte.
Yeah. But like, do they really know any more information? We saw Mormain 0 times in this book. He is gone.
You're right. We haven't seen him in this book.
He is
You're right. I
out
just
of
thought
here.
about it.
He is
Again, I
gone.
just realized that.
No, yeah, we have not seen Mortmain a single time in this book.
Oh,
We've
then
heard
we
about
know
Beach
him.
that
episode.
It's the beach episode.
we're
Yeah,
due
literally
for some
nothing has happened as far as the plot.
crazy Mortmain making up for lost time, I guess you shall say.
Exactly. Like he's been away this entire book working on his own plans or whatever. We saw Nate come back in the story for like a brief moment to come and then die and say that he
We were like,
did
oh
bad
shit, we need a
things.
villain
And we
moment.
don't know what bad things. Yeah. We don't know what bad things he has
And then
done
when Nate died, it
that
was,
we don't know
was
about.
shifting the focus to Benedict Lightwood.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Benedict became the antagonist a little bit, and then but this book was mostly about all those relationships, the love
All the
triangle.
spicy stuff.
Yeah.
The romance.
If we're talking about relationships, Charlotte and Henry finally talk to each other.
Finally.
Bless.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I wrote down
Thank
that Charlotte describes Henry like a puppy or like a loving puppy or something like that. And I was like, I agree with this characterization. He's excitable, he's loyal, he's loving. And I'm just like,
Henry is so good. Henry appreciation post.
Henry is good.
I love him. But they finally talk to each other. They're like, I love you and I love you. And it's just like, finally.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Yep.
smoochies.
Well, they were doing smoochies beforehand. Because
Considering she's now pregnant, yeah, they were.
There was already a baby in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I definitely didn't realize that baby is like, it was that what we talked about before. I was like, oh no.
Like I remember Charlotte being pregnant, but I didn't realize it, or I forgot that it was now.
I thought that it was after they made up, but no, they're just having some really awkward sex.
I'm like,
It's
I just you figure that it's after that they like, finally and like or like whatever.
I love you. I love you. Let's do it on the desk in the basement. Like, yeah, I was here for that.
Maybe this episode should have been
maybe they did,
hot
but
here.
But no, 'twas before.
Henry's so supportive.
'Twas not YA sex, 'twas actual sex happening under the institute roof.
Shut up. Henry's so supportive, he's so loving, and when he's so excited when Charlotte tells him that everyone that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone,
And he's
including
like-
Henry. She didn't tell Henry beforehand.
That's what I'm saying.
Nope, Henry
was like,
That's what I mean. He was like, wait, what? Buford! And Charlotte's like, nah, fam.
No, we are not naming this child Buford. Yeah.
I know not of this child.
Just Henry's precious. We protect Henry at all costs.
I love Henry so much.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He's the best. I'm still waiting for that Henry on fire counter to tick back up.
Listen.
Yeah.
I'm
sure
disappointed by the lack of
since
fire.
we're going to be fighting
I think it happens a lot in the last book, is what we're all thinking about.
Yes. I'm sure the word that I have flubbed up like twice, the
Automatons.
Automatons?
Yes. Those. Yes. I'm sure
Just
that
call it a
since
robot.
we are expecting
The fancy
Yes.
robots.
Thank you.
The old-timey
fancy
robots.
I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of them in the next book since we have had
I
zero
know we
Mortmain, and then we will have a lot of chances for fire.
Because as we know, arson is always an option.
It
Arson
is,
is always an option.
and then when Benedict is doing his whole, Charlotte's going blah blah blah, he mentions like, well, we know now that we should be expecting like a war and like so like a big deal.
And then all the celebration of Charlotte and Jem and Tessa is interrupted because who is at the door?
Cecily.
Not just a girl named Cecily, but Cecily Herondale. As we
Cecily
know, but,
Herondale.
I'm refreshing memories for anybody who may not remember.
Will like.
Yeah.
Will's little
Yeah.
sister.
And Tessa like, I wouldn't know that face even if I'd never met her before. She looks exactly like Will.
Copy
And
paste.
She wants to be a shadow hunter. And what's interesting about that is because she and her siblings were not raised to be shadow hunters.
They were not.
Nope.
You can
I
take
just have so many
the
thoughts about
Herondales out of the
Cecily,
Shadowhunters, but you can't take the Shadowhunter out of the Herondales.
Yes.
No.
I have many thoughts about Cecily, but I can't even talk about them.
Nope, because
We
all
don't know
get
her
is-
yet.
Literally all of her
At the end of
character is in the last book.
It is. Yep.
Let's see.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we talked about all the major stuff.
We did. the only I was looking at my notes and I was like, we talked about the mage or something. The only thing is I'm still like reeling over is the whole Will and Tessa thing and Jem.
Oh, I could go on about that because I have a lot of things
I
that
know.
I pulled out, and
I'm ready to go on about that again, and like and I can share with you because since I have that little extra thing that you didn't, I'll share a couple
yeah,
bits of
please
that
talk about that. I want to
here.
hear.
But like, so there's this the inscription, right, that Will writes in Tessa's Tale of Two Cities book, and didn't that happen in like part 2 of this? But like it was early in this book,
I'm not sure, but
somewhere like in the first half, I think that he gave.
Does he
gave
ever
it
give
to her,
it back to her?
I feel like we would have heard about it because
good
how
question.
would Tessa not have looked at that?
I know he gives her some book. Then she reads the little note like over and over and over.
Right. It's a
just
little
that this one,
poem
or is
though,
that
and
a
that's not
different
this.
one?
It's
I don't
different.
think it's that.
I think
it's,
that
okay.
Will might still have this copy. I don't think they've ever given it to Tessa.
Especially because he wrote this
alright.
before he thought he was thought he was still cursed.
So Tessa hasn't seen it, so she gets a pass. But like,
Okay, fine.
But
She gets a pass then. But I was like, because I thought it was that book that she because it's strong words for that because I was telling I was like, how could she have this and be like, oh no, I'm just gonna settle
he
for Jem
can't
because
really love me.
he's never going to love me. Like he's never going to love me. Yeah, but it's so the letter starts. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it is like I guess 2 pages, but it starts Tessa. Was there ever a name, or was there ever a more beautiful sound than your name? And then so that it goes on. Why have I written these words in this book? Because of you. You taught me to love this book where I had scorned it. And then, he goes on about the book and his relation to Sydney Carton a little bit, Tale of Two Cities. And then, so he writes this after, because he's, and now, at last, I am free, and I can finally tell you without fear of danger to you all that I feel in my heart. You are not the last dream of my soul. You are the first dream, the only dream. I ever was unable to stop myself from dreaming. You are the first dream of my soul, and from that dream, I hope will come all other dreams a lifetime's worth.
I love him. 1.
Yep.
2.
It's so
when did he write this? Because he clearly wrote it after.
It's clearly after the curse was broken. Yeah.
When did he have time to write this?
Curse. I don't know.
Laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Tessa as you do when you're young and love-struck.
When he gets back, doesn't he
suppose.
immediately run into Charlotte and Henry?
I think he's back the night before that. He just came back late.
Oh. I thought like when he came back, he immediately ran into Charlotte and Henry.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of downtime. There's a lot happening at the end.
If there was time in between when he got back and then talking to Charlotte and Henry in the drawing room, then that's probably when.
He probably did. The passion, the emotions that Will
what it gives?
So much of all the time.
You know what it gives? It gives You Were My New Dream from Tangled.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if anyone doesn't know, Tangled's my favorite Disney movie, and Rapunzel and Eugene are my favorite Disney couple. So
they're really good. Yeah, it's just like I can't.
Ali,
I'm sorry.
Stop with the reverb. I'm used to hearing this every day when you stream.
I'm trying my best. I got excited.
Be gentle.
It's the drama.
Okay, so I did have a thought.
Go ahead.
When so we learn what Jem was talking to the Shadow or the Silent Brothers about.
Yeah.
So
when they were visiting Jem.
Yeah, because I remember I brought that up last episode. I brought that up because I was like, oh, what is he talking to them about? And then we do find out he goes and he asks questions about Barbara Lightwood and how she died.
Yes.
Because he's like, huh, that's sus. And I wasn't sure what he was talking about at that point, but now getting it, I'm like, that's what that was.
It does.
You were like, seems sus, and I was like, no, it's not.
And Jem brings it up when Demon Pox is revealed to be real. And then Will's like, "Hey, tu brute."
Hey,
You knew this whole time.
You knew this whole time.
The demon fox might
You
be
didn't
real, and
say
you didn't
anything?
tell me.
Jim's like, I had to be sure.
Exactly. Jim like, I had to make sure because otherwise
Yeah.
this would happen. Keep your
Uh-huh.
shit together.
If we want to talk about Will more and his heartbreak and him and Tessa, I was going to talk about that Aunt Harriet quote again, because you guys know I love comparing them to that Aunt Harriet quote.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what a man says, but what he does, or whatever the quote is. I'm paraphrasing.
That is mostly the quote, yeah.
As soon as Will knows he's not cursed, his eyes are always on Tessa.
Mm-hmm.
And he is like, always like, I have this pulled. When Tessa walked in, he sat upright so abruptly that some of the tea spilled on his sleeve. He set the cup down without taking his eyes off. And that was when Tessa walked into the room. So, like, he's just not hiding anymore. He doesn't have a need to be. He can be how he actually feels, and it's great.
Will has so much love in his heart all the time, and like every time he opens his mouth and he's sincere, it is the most heart-wrenchingly beautiful thing you've ever heard. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. In the chat we have, it was spot on from the heart. Re his his writings in A Tale of Two Cities, and exactly like every time, just the depth with which Will experiences emotion is just overwhelming, and to see him be free to like show that to others, is a welcome change. But to have that immediately ripped from him,
keeping it inside for 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah, but then that's immediately ripped from him because Tessa's engaged. Yeah. She's off the table. He can't. He finally has his freedom, and it's gone.
And like, I also pulled out
hurts, man.
When they're talking about Sophie and Gideon and blah blah blah, Will says, "A man in love will tell anyone anything, betray anyone," and he's looking right at Tessa when he says that.
Yep.
And I said, I love looking at how Will's changed. He makes no attempt to hide his feelings for Tessa now that he knows that he's not cursed. Mm-hmm. And he's being his true self.
Right. Which is interesting because Jem doesn't notice these things, though. Will is now being like,
my God.
But we haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about.
I wrote this down too.
Jem and Will have a conversation about Tessa. And
I have thoughts
Will
on this.
goes into Jem's room, and Jem opens up like, "Oh, there's something I wanted you to talk about," and Will's sick, and he's like, "Oh, he's gonna tell me about the engagement, and like, how am I gonna deal with this?" And Jem's like, "I wanted to thank you for saving Tessa, and I know you must have done it because you know how I feel about her." And then Will is just like, "Yeah, that's why I did it." Just like,
I have to ask, how can two boys who are Barabatai, who are brothers, best friends, be so oblivious?
It's really interesting how blind they are to this in particular, considering how deeply they know each other in literally every other way.
Honestly, it is.
And like Jem's clocked Will in that he knows that that attitude he had of pushing everybody away was not the real Will. So like,
but Jem. There's also,
and isn't in Clockwork Angel, doesn't Jem clock something like that about like how Will is different around Tessa too?
Yes, yeah. That's the connection I just made. Like, how does he say that I noticed you noticing and not put it together?
And how would Will not clock that Jem probably has some sort of feeling for Tessa because
they had this conversation at Clockwork Angel.
Yeah. And also, like, Will has to know that Tessa is the only one to know Jem without sort of, I don't know how to say it, but like, we had talked about this of like...
Yeah, but I was like, the only person to know Jem for not being like a sickly
Shadowhunter. Like, she didn't meet him and knew he was immediately ill.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Right. Yes. She's the first person to meet him as Jem, the man, and not
as just
Jem, the sickly, ill, sad Shadowhunter
boy. He came to the Institute after he got like sick, but I was like, it was something about that.
Yeah. And my thing is like, honestly, Will sometimes is in Will Island like a lot of the time, where he doesn't think about how others, like we've seen how he doesn't
see the opium den
consequences of his actions. Yeah.
And they do talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they do talk about that, but like Jem has seen this before, and like I saw that part, I'm like, Jem, buddy.
You've
And
been
like
here.
he knows what happened with. I don't know if it's the same thing or even remotely comparable, but we know Jem knows about what happened with Tatiana.
Mm-hmm.
About how Tatiana had like a schoolgirl crush on him, and Will was like super cruel to her to get her to not love him. And maybe Jem doesn't know that part of it, but like it's gotta know something. I don't know. It's just for
they're just not communicating a lot in these books except for like the dire moments.
Right.
They care about each other. They are brothers. And
they are.
They would do anything for each other.
Jem, my Jem?
Except for talk to each other.
Time. It's interesting that they don't talk. Well, Jem addresses this a little bit at the start of that conversation. He says that he doesn't talk about. They don't talk about love. Because Jem is, you know, words. English. Jem is.
Apparently.
Huh?
It's not Allie's strong suit, apparently.
No, it's not. I'm bad at words.
It's fine.
I was like, I want to have a podcast, guys, where I want to talk, but I'm bad at talking. So
yeah,
and now we completely lost train of thought. Fuck.
If you want to get back on
so
that,
he starts the conversation talking about how they don't talk about love, and they don't talk about that thing specifically because Will's a cynic, and Jem didn't want to have those conversations because of that, which is interesting. So that they would avoid like that one thing, but also I wonder if they've never been in a position to discuss it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. They might not have, like, you know, obviously neither of them has feelings for Jesse, so, like...
Jesse is off the table.
Right, so
and
maybe
and Tessa, for the little while, thought Jem liked Sophie, so...
Exactly. We have a question in the chat about the relationship between the names. Can you elaborate a little bit?
What you mean. Yeah, I was gonna ask you to... Do you mean, like, between the names, their first names, or the Shadowhunter names?
Yeah. Elaborate a little bit, and then, we're happy to...
clarify a little bit.
Go off on that.
We're happy to answer some questions.
If you're listening after the fact, we would love to see you in our chat so we can talk to you in real time.
Exactly. We are live on Twitch. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Every other Sunday. For the most part, except for like these past week where we've done like 3 in a row.
For the past week. We're on here all the time.
All the links are in our bios.
And make sure you're following the stream, follow the Instagram, all that fun stuff.
I try to post on Instagram regularly. I'm not very good at it, but I try.
We're getting better, you know.
We're making an effort, you know.
Content creators.
But like one more thing on that, like like I'm glad that we brought up the Will and Jem conversation because like I wrote it down, but then like in the context of all this stuff, and I'm just like, but my thing so I also wrote down the my Jem, but like I'm like the question is also like, is Tessa responsible? Like she's putting responsibility on herself for their relationship too, the relationship between Will and Jem, and I don't think that is that's not her. Like she feels like she has to preserve that relationship, but it's not her responsibility to preserve their friendship. Yeah. She knows they're privatized. She knows that there's a bond stronger than best friendship with that. Like,
I also wrote down, which I don't think is really anything but a callback to the opening, to when we met Jem, is Jem says, "Will, is that you, Will?"
He does.
And I'm like, only this time, it is actually him.
This time it is.
I just thought that was a nice callback.
It is. It is a good callback, and Tessa thinks about that moment.
Tessa say that too. I was gonna say,
she thinks about that moment, when she's before she comes to that conclusion, we can never tell Jem because she's like, I know how they feel about each other, and that would be breaking their relationship, and that would be,
she's so obviously in love with Will, more so than she loves Jem.
Yeah, and Allie was mentioning, but we were talking a little bit about this book before we jumped into the podcast of like her reactions,
the perils of living together.
Her reactions to when Jem proposed, she's like, oh yeah, sure, I guess, and then like when she realized after her conversation with Will, she like breaks down. She's
kind of like, no, this can't be
happening. She's like sobbing. She like reaches in. There's like a moment where she burns her hand.
She like burns her hand.
She burns her hand because she like dissociates for a minute.
And she like sobs, cries herself to sleep.
Yeah,
exactly. Sophie comes in because she screams so loud, like the raw anguish after that conversation.
We didn't sort of talk about this, but speaking of screaming, during the council meeting, someone screams, and I'm just like, yes, I too would scream. Hold on, what did I say? I too would scream if a swarm of bugs, let alone metal ones, were swarming above me.
Oh yeah, that is the thing that happened. That was just kind of
Because
that felt weird to me. I was just like, okay.
it was don't worry, we never forgot about Mortmain.
I was like, and now there's robot bugs.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, well, Mortmain's Institute spies are compromised, so now he has metal.
This might as well happen. Sure.
And also, very quickly, Starkweather, he starts to say something to Tessa, but then very quickly changes the way he's speaking and what he's saying to be talking with a very heavy accent. And it's said that Jem and Will very obviously are like, something's going on here, but we don't know why Starkweather does this or what he was going to say.
I do remember clocking that as strange, but I didn't have any.
It's just like it's weird
that.
because it's very obvious that he's going to say something.
Starkweather's a weird dude.
It's
Well,
like
we know that he's like senile. He's losing it.
I don't know, but I don't know if it was that he was senile or he was going to say something and then it was like, oh, people are watching, I can't say this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I'm pretty sure that's not the last we see of him. I think he comes back in the third book at some point, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we'll see.
Maybe we'll learn. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more. Yeah.
One of my
third book. Oh,
third books. One of my favorite lines in this that we have not talked about yet is when it's just following Demon Fox, where Will is in fine Will form, and then Will's like, "Here's my plan," and then Charlotte's like, "Here's your plan, but here's is better, and now it's my plan." And then Will's just like, "She annexed my plan."
Oh, and Jem's like, "Do you?"
Oh yeah.
It's
Jem or Tessa who's like,
do you care more about the plan working or getting credit for it? And he's like,
that one, the second one.
And I was like, I wrote a note on this. I was like, LMAO at Will caring more about getting credit for the plan.
In fine Will form, as you do.
Oh, Will is in fine form after learning a Demon Fox.
I love him. And I said this last time. I was like, I will always be a Jace stan, a Jace girl, but Will is coming for my heart.
Oh yeah, he gets you. He gets you.
He's so beautiful and so broken, and I'm
very interested to see what James is like, considering.
James is good. James is good.
James is good too. Yeah, yeah.
says the Brandon James stan. James is good.
Yeah, James is good.
James is good. Yeah.
Where I go to whatever means necessary to defend Jace from Allie, and Ginny's just like, James is good.
That tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a feral stan. I think you guys both count as feral for Will and feral for Jace. You know,
feral.
so
I'm just feral. Period. Full stop. That's just who I am as a person.
That is Allie is feral. If Allie were an animal, it would be a feral cat.
I think I'm more like a possum or like raccoon.
Yeah, honestly,
not a cat.
Not a cat.
It's I'm dangerous. Don't touch me. I will claw your eyes out.
Unhinged.
Unhinged.
Also, when you disappear
to
give your buddy 2 or 3 energy runes.
Stop that right now.
Listen, Allie the real ship that we're all sleeping on here is Herondales. That needs to be the conclusion.
No, absolutely not.
I'm just saying that's the correct answer. Fuck Jessa, fuck Wessa, it's Herondales. Solve everybody's problem all at once.
Fair, actually, yeah.
I don't know if you're still there in the chat, but since you haven't elaborated, I will put our Discord in the chat. If you want to ask us your question on Discord, you are more than welcome to. We will answer you there.
Herondales.
In general, like, you know, we're excited to read the series because we know that the last names are going to follow us throughout this.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one thing that we're looking forward to, knowing that we're going to be reading this series, The Infernal Devices, and then after that we're going to be reading The Last Hours. So we are going to get this direct family lineage thing happening immediately, which is really fun.
For God's sake, the babies.
I said in my notes, well, considering the Lightwood name, we know it carries on. The plan's got to work, and something about this plan has to work.
Yeah, obviously the plan works somehow here. Yeah. So we're gonna see these names appear in many series, and we love that about this series. So we're gonna see like the direct descendants next, and then we're gonna see even more descendants later on in other books.
Yeah. I believe our next episode will be the
2 weeks from
October 1st?
2 weeks from now,
right?
October the 1st. So we're
Woo.
kicking off October with
Spooky season.
Clockwork Princess, which I have thoughts going into Clockwork
Ginny
Princess
does
that
not sound happy.
I'm concerned going into Clockwork Princess because
Oh.
I
Trust
think
me.
I gave
I am
Tessa
too.
grace in these first 2 books, and I feel like the last one is where it fell apart.
I'm concerned for other reasons, which I will not say on stream because it's spoilers.
So it's interesting because I was like, I'm going to read this series with grace for Tessa because I know that I did not like her the first time, and I'm just like, I'm holding it together by threads. I'm just like, and we're giving grace to Tessa because she is a child and sometimes she makes stupid decisions.
Like I said, in my brain, I think that the first 2, I was like, she's not so bad, and the third one was where I was like, Tessa. But I will have to read it to find out for sure if that's what happened.
But
yeah.
I'm excited for our episode on the last part of Clockwork Princess. I'm excited for Clockwork Princess episode 4. We might need to plan to be here for a little longer.
Oh gosh.
For that one in particular. But
the wrap up of the whole series. Yeah.
Until October 1st.
Yeah.
You guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for lurking if you're lurking.
If remember to follow if you're in the chats, that way you get notifications when we go live here.
If you're listening after the fact, be sure to try and check us out if you're around, or check us out on our social medias.
And leave a review wherever you're listening. Those reviews are helpful. You know,
we enjoy doing this, and we hope you enjoy it too.
Exactly. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
With a new book.
With a new book.
Bye.
Bye.